Tape Deck Media.
Step right up. Listen to the Awful Service Podcast. It's future radio on your computer phone. You've heard of Hanna-Barbera, Laurel and Hardy, Sears and Roebuck, now Doyle and Cocazello. Are you a bean counter at your boring job? Listen to the Awful Service Podcast. We've got segments, we've got guests, we've got Karens.
The Awful Service Podcast, available where all podcasts are streamed. Brought to you by Tape Deck Media.
Riddle me this, riddle me that. We got the riddles that'll make you chat. Oh yeah, baseline stuff been through this tight. Get your funk on, we're rocking tonight. One more time.
Good morning, Ruddlers. Welcome back to another episode of Ruddle Me This. Your faithful host, Taylor Ruddle, once again, and we have an absolute doozy of an episode for you today. I feel like I say this often, and hopefully that's indicative of the growing prestige of Ruddle Me This, but I think today we might have the biggest guest so far in comedian Ray O'Leary. Ray is a New Zealand stand-up comedian. He started out, I believe, in Wellington, has recently made the jump over to Australia, where he appears on television, on all sorts of panel shows, and he's been on Taskmaster, as well as, I believe, the, the Guy Montgomery's Spelling Bee show. So, yeah, Ray is definitely one of the up-and-coming stand-ups from New Zealand, making his way out in the wide world. And I have to give a special thank you to Brady Thompson for setting up this interview. I can't remember exactly how Brady managed it. I think Ray and Brady might have been at a New Year's party together. And I believe Brady is going to be my booking agent from now on, because Brady has sent me a couple of guests so far. So if you're listening, Brady, thank you. The topic that Ray said that he wanted to talk about today was the television show Glee. And I am fascinated with the, how shall I put this, the sort of darkness and the kind of tragedy and all that kind of monstrous stuff that's been kind of in relation to the show of Glee, when the show itself was very upbeat and positive. We get into a little bit of that towards the end of the podcast, and mainly we just talk about how Ray got interested in the show and why it was kind of meaningful to him. We, of course, do talk a little bit about stand-up there, and you were probably expecting this to be an episode about stand-up comedy, but I thought we'd defy expectations and we'll do something a little bit off the beaten track first. But then through the course of chatting to Ray here, and then even just afterwards, Ray said he's happy to come on the podcast and have a chat just about the craft of stand-up comedy. So at the time of this recording, I am going to be recording that tomorrow with Ray. I'm really looking forward to being able to pick his brain, especially because, as I've said on the podcast leading up until now, I'm currently writing my third kind of proper comedy special. Working title so far is Bruiser, and I am looking at each one of my shows with the sort of mindset that each show I'm going to set myself a goal, and the goal is a kind of self-improvement one. For example, Rudzilla, the goal for that one was to have a sort of have like a narrative, if you will, and also to be comfortable in the parts of the show where there weren't any laughter and I was just talking about stuff. The goal for Panic at the Buffet was I was trying to be a little more intentional with my, I suppose, message. Maybe message is the wrong word. I was trying to, I guess, in a way, not open up as such, be a little more vulnerable than I had been. Talking about an insecurity is always tough for people, so I guess that was the goal for that special there. So for my next one, it's to go even more personal and sort of figure out who the Taylor Ruddle on stage is. As up until this point, most of my routines have just been things that have happened to me told in a funny way. And so I guess, yeah, the goal for it is to put a little more personality into the stand-up. And that's one thing that Ray, if you're familiar with his work, has absolutely done. I said this to him the other day that I feel like Ray is one of the best examples of somebody that's combining a strong character with a really tight sort of writing ability. He disagrees, as he's apparently a very humble person and very generous with his time. But anyway, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Today's episode's not about that. Keep checking back at about a month's time, I think we dropped that one. Possibly even a little bit longer than that. So for right now, enjoy the biggest guest I've gotten so far on the podcast and myself talking about the TV show Glee. Welcome to the show, Ray O'Leary. Ray O'Leary, welcome to Riddle Me This. Thank you for giving up some of your time today. I know you're a very busy person.
No, thank you so much for having me. Always have time for another Ryan Murphy aficionado.
Yes, so that's basically, they'll know by the episode title, but we were going to talk about this. I think people are probably expecting us to talk about comedy, and we will do that at a future point. But for today, we're going to be talking about the TV show Glee. So, where should we begin? I'm guessing this is a show that's quite special to you.
Let's start episode 1, series 1, and then and then I'll come back for another hour-long discussion of episode 1, series 2. Series.
Okay,
we'll
that sounds
slowly
good.
move through all 121 episodes.
Well, that sounds like a very profitable thing for us to do, to be honest. So I'm down for it. But yes, are we similar age? I'm about to turn 33 this year. What are you close to that?
Yeah, around that. I'm older, but
So
yeah.
what was were you watching it when it was on television here, or how did you kind of get into it?
Yes, no. I feel like in America, I believe what they did is they aired a special episode early to get, they aired the first episode early to get people hooked in, months in advance. And that went really, really well. But I think in New Zealand, I don't think we had that. But my memory is that it used to air, was it on a Friday night?
I think it might have been, now
really,
that you say that.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I was a huge fan actually of the, because it aired while I was in high school. The first part of it, me and my friends were me and my two other male friends, we were obsessed over it. And I think other guys in our school, other guys the year above us were like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Why do you care so much about the show? I remember us going to someone's house. Maybe it was a party or before a party, and we were like, "Oh, Glee's on." And we put on Glee, and they were like, "This is a sickness." But then very quickly I dropped off, and it was only during the COVID lockdowns that I sort of revisited it because it was sort of like a memory from my teenage years.
Oh, yes, I have. I was in high school as well. I think I might have been year 9 or 10 when it came out because I remember the ad campaigns. They used to use that L on the forehead as the kind of the logo, and I remember the commercials that we used to get here didn't really do. I didn't know what the show was about. I know it was about I just remember snippets of the cool cheerleaders throwing the slushie in someone's face or pushing them in lockers and that kind of thing. And I thought it was this sort of show about the it crowd and the cool people or something, but actually it's quite the opposite, isn't it?
Well, I see what you mean. You mean you thought it was going to focus on the cool kids?
Yeah. That's what. It's
the opposite. Yeah, but isn't that the other thing about in New Zealand is that we don't use the term. There's no such thing as glee clubs.
No, I'd never heard of it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I never heard of it until the TV show. I want to say. There are obviously singing groups and stuff, but the specific word Glee Club, I think, is maybe a solely American phenomenon. I'm not sure if it's in the UK at all, but definitely, it's definitely not in New Zealand or Australia.
No.
And so, advertising a show just as Glee, you wouldn't be like, oh, this is going to be a musical thing.
Yeah. And I think that's what surprised me when I actually did start watching. I didn't watch it for many years later. I was in sort of tertiary education by the time I watched it. And
Hmm.
the era of the music, because I think it's a little bit of a punchline in the show that the teacher, what is he, Will, is the sort of Glee Club.
Yes, Mr.
He,
Schuster,
Mr. Schuster, they were like, they sort of
as played
parodied
by
him
Matthew
like,
Morrison.
yeah, they parodied him by saying, "Oh, I found another Journey song to cover, guys."
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I quite liked that era of music, and that's what got me into it. But I guess was there anything particularly about it that sort of hooked you? Like, what was it that really resonated with you? Well, you fell off, but yeah. So what? I guess what was your kind of ties to it?
I think probably being in high school and it's a high school TV show, there's like an automatic link there. And I think that I'm trying to think of what was the like I do love music, and I suspect that was the hook for most people into the show is that is like you never knew what song that you were curious about what songs they were going to cover, you didn't know, and it was for me an introduction to a lot of songs like this many I've seen people refer to it as sort of that generation's MTV, and which it basically was, like it helped break songs and it helped introduce us to older songs. And I think the thing that I liked about Glee when it first aired, which I think if you hadn't watched the show, you would maybe be surprised by this. But when it started, I think it definitely had like a dark edge to it. Like there was a
Yeah,
bite to it. There was satirical. Like Sue Sylvester, the Jane Lynch character. She was really a villain.
yeah,
Like the opening line to the show is you think this is hard? Try being waterboarded. That's
that's
hard.
right.
Like
That's
that's
right.
the only line, like so there's already there's an invocation of the war on terror and torture and torture techniques and stuff. Um,
That's
and
right.
this weird look,
She's great
yeah.
in
So
that
there's
show.
yeah, she's phenomenal. But I think, like I did a few years earlier, High School Musical had come out, and
Oh yeah.
I had enjoyed that, but that came out, maybe 4 or 5 years before, I forget when, but
Mm.
like it, Glee felt like a genuine satire of that kind of preppy, happy, hopeful, optimistic kind of
Yeah.
Disney-fied, Sacharin,
Yes.
Glee in its initial run is quite, I think, cynical and can be not cruel per se, but it felt, I don't know, I guess because one of the teenage characters becomes pregnant, and
Yeah.
it felt more a more realistic and edgier depiction of high school, I think, and therefore funnier. And
That's right, because
I yeah.
they were tackling stuff in the first season, or I'm not sure when they sort of when I dropped off. It might have been two or three, but they were tackling things like the teen pregnancy. That I think it was a sort of a fair baby as well, wasn't it, in the first season?
Hmm. Yes, yes,
And
yes, yes, yes.
I know they tackled what was the main girl? She was Rachel, and
Yeah.
she had a bit of a crush on Will in the beginning, and he was trying to let her down gently, but then he did that like medley of it was like the police and I forget the other
Science
song.
stance. Gary Glitter? No, not Gary Union and the no Gary someone in the Union Gap is
Yeah,
the name of the artist. Don't
and
stand so close to me and young girl.
that's right, and that just drove her. She was more into him
Yeah,
after that,
yeah,
and then I think they did a lot of stuff with the main guy. Was he Finn?
yeah. Finn, yeah.
Finn
Corey
and his
Monteith.
like sort of stepbrother who kind of liked him, and then they had to
Yeah,
sort of navigate that. So there was a lot of really
yeah,
really complicated stuff in the first season, and like you say, it does have a it's a lot edgier than I guess what you would have seen
yes,
up until that point. Yeah,
yes. Definitely more. Yeah, definitely more so than High School Musical. High School Musical is very saccharine and sweet. You know, there's one character in High School Musical that some people feel they code or they give queer characteristics to the Ryan character,
Ryan. Yeah, he was great.
Ashley Tisdale's brother. Whereas in Glee, they actually did have a gay show, a gay character, and at the time. I think that was like incredibly controversial. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Can you hear that? Could you hear that?
Nope,
No,
we're
you
all
couldn't
good.
hear that at all. Okay, sorry. There was anyway, there was a gay character on the show, like a young, gay boy, or teenager, and that I think even depicting gay characters in media then was like crazy, and
Mm.
boundary pushing, and then I think for it to be a teenage boy, I think was really like I think was really really groundbreaking for the time and really gave again the show an edge and made it stand out. I do think it's like it perfectly encapsulates almost like the Obama era
It does,
of,
yeah.
of politics. I think like it's a very or at least what it became does. Like it is ultimately a very hopeful show, and then also there is like quite a lot of, and I think it captures the politics of the time. Like there's quite a lot of emphasis on diversity, but it's also done quite clumsily, which I think sort of encapsulates a lot of the politics at the time. Um,
Yes, it's I'd never thought
but
about it like that, but I'm
but it's
sure,
but
yeah.
if you go like it's easy to look back now and look at Glee and go like, oh, they had well that, to begin with one gay male character and be like that's nothing. We put on TV shows all the time and a character will mention they're gay and it's just no big deal, whatever, who
Yeah.
cares? But at the time Glee did it, that was just unheard of, and
Mm.
I think there were probably boycotts of the show, because of it. I think in America it became a very divisive thing. Some people called it like the gay show, or said that the show was like too gay, and there
Right.
was things like that was happening, which was bizarre when you look back. When
Yeah,
when it feels now, that feels so quaint almost to have just
yeah. I
like who
remember
cares?
Chris Colfer used to play or played Kurt. I know he used to
Hmm.
get like not harassed, but yeah, he definitely got some hate, I think, which
Yeah.
yeah, people are listening to that and being like, "What? That's insane." But because when did Glee
Yeah.
was it it was
Yes, it was interesting. Yeah, he was a lightning rod. He was 18 years old, and he was both now, I guess, not. I mean, not the face, but like to a lot of, I can imagine, young queer people, he was like, the guy. Like he's the
yes.
only one on TV. But then also to every like homophobe, he's also the guy. And so
Mm.
it would have been a hugely polarizing figure.
Yeah. What does he still act or I'm not sure. Is he doing anything that you're aware of lately?
He writes children's books.
Right.
I think I was going to say the faraway tree, but that's not. That's already something. That's
That
not
is a
him.
thing, yeah.
Yeah, that's already a thing. Yeah, yeah. So he stole the faraway tree. He's a massive plagiarist.
Nice.
And the other thing I know, from perusing his Instagram every now and then, is that um, he loved the Queen. He appears to be some kind of monarchist or
Huh.
royalist. And
Interesting.
yeah, yeah, and loves Halloween. Yeah, but
Huh. Oh, good on him.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Unexpected politics, maybe.
I remember it was a big deal when they added his kind of first proper love interest, if I'm remembering it correctly. Was the character called Blair or Blaine or something?
Blaine, yes.
Blaine. And the actor who played him he got sort of booked through doing like a Harry Potter musical or something. They kind of saw him in there and were like, we need him for Glee. Am I remembering this correctly?
I'm not sure how accurate that is. I believe he did do. I should say he did do a thing called a very Potter musical
That's what it was, yeah.
beforehand, which I'm not really across that. Like I believe there are some people who really, really loved that at the time it came out,
Yes. Oh, it
like
was massive, yeah.
yeah, yeah, like it was like one of those things that, someone had I don't know if they had illegally, but someone had recorded on like a camcorder and uploaded it to YouTube, and that's how
Uh-huh.
people watch this like really grainy video of these like this this high school or uni theater production.
Right,
Um,
right.
but I believe he did audition for the role of Finn back in the day, and
Oh,
had been
okay.
turned down. Um, but then he came on during the second season, as Blaine, and who then became Kurt's love interest.
Yes, that's right. And they would do these like a cappella versions of the Katy Perry songs and stuff, which I always quite liked. There's like I think every now and then I'll just have a bit of a memory and I'll be like, I should go back and watch some Glee music on YouTube, and I'll just go and find the ones that I remember and watch them back. Do you have any
Yeah.
favorites that you revisit?
Yes, I do think the Warblers, who the group that Blaine was a part of, the one from their high school,
Were they called
that
Dalton
one,
Academy?
yes,
I don't know why I remember that.
the Delta. Why wouldn't you? I think we just two guys who know the normal amount of Glee that anyone else
Yeah,
would know.
exactly. Yeah.
I think that is kind of, I mean, it's, that's kind of what I wish almost all the music sounded like, like I feel like they sound like a proper Glee, I really enjoy listening to that kind of a cappella stuff, and
Yeah.
I love those kind of arrangements of songs. But yeah, my favorite songs. Yeah, so any ones by them, I tend to love. Like there's one which is also clearly some kind of cross promotional thing with the Gap clothing store that
Oh
where
yeah.
they sing "When I Get You Alone." I quite enjoy that cover. Um, I will say, and there's a song that made me go like, all right, maybe we should go back and watch. I should go back and watch the show. Is I think "Don't Stop Believing," the very
Mm.
first song they ever did. I think there is something quite special about. I don't know the way to describe it, but that was the one that I started remembering being like, oh yeah, that's right, that TV show used to be on, like because I don't know about you, but when it first started, I enjoyed it, and then I quickly dropped off, and then while I was at uni and stuff, I used to be quite an avid reader of like the AV. I was like an avid TV consumer, and I love things like Community and 30 Rock,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
and Community did a whole episode which was about how Glee was bad.
Right.
They did an episode where they were in a Glee club, and the Glee club was kind of like this evil, malicious mind virus.
Oh, I think I
Uh,
remember that. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a fantastic episode. It's Community is such a phenomenal show, but definitely by that time, like my perception of the show had changed, and like you'd see like headlines or things or like people posting about what's been happening, and you'd be like,
Yeah.
Christ, that happened on this. Like,
Yeah.
what's happened? Like, they're all puppets now, and like what is going on?
Yeah.
And so like my critical view of the show very quickly changed. Um, and then so then by the time lockdown happened, and then I was like, oh yeah, that's right, that show happened. Started watching like them perform live at the White House, singing "Don't Stop Believing" and doing other crazy things like that. And I was like, all right, maybe I should rewatch the show. I rewatched it with my flatmate at the time, and he absolutely hated it. He really just awful time.
Did he finish
It's
it?
a shame. It's a shame. Yeah, we both finished it. Yeah, it's a shame he's not here right now. Actually, we should have been talking about it together.
Get his perspective of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
get his incorrect perspective.
I think for me, and I don't know if this is a symptom of like do you remember the TV show called Misfits about those British teenagers who were in
Yes,
like
I used to really love Misfits. Yeah.
yeah, the same thing happened with Misfits as I remember they started it felt like at one point every single member of the cast had sort of dated each other or
Mm.
had some kind of thing going and I remember again wasn't following Glee but I remember every now and then I would check the storylines and I'd be like really those two like what and
Yeah,
maybe that's just a symptom of a when you've because Glee went for a long time it was 8 or 9 seasons
yeah,
wasn't it
yeah. 6.
6 seasons yeah.
But that's still, but American production cycles, that's 22-hour long.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so I think you just run out of things for the characters to do and you start thinking about interesting
yes,
combinations.
it's just the writers sitting in a room with the characters' faces up and just drawing different arrows between people and going,
Yeah.
why not? Well, yeah.
That's
Why
right.
not have, yeah, why doesn't Finn date the nurse or so,
Yeah.
and doing this random stuff like that. But
That's right.
yeah, and I think an element of probably of that as well, or I don't know if Ryan Murphy has like some kind of sixth sense, evil sixth sense, but he seemed to be able to predict what people responded to, or maybe he was just giving the fans what he thought they wanted. Like very early in the show, they paired the characters of Rachel and Puck up, the female lead and I guess the bully of the show,
Yeah, yeah.
and people at the time loved it. They thought it was great, and so I guess he was like, all right, like, this is just our thing now. We'll just like
Yeah.
mishmash different people and see how people react.
You've just reminded me of something from when I was studying. The reason I actually watched it again was a classmate of mine. She was a massive shipper on Glee. And
Oh.
is it a term people still use today, shipping?
I don't know. Well, I mean, I don't do it. So, like I'm not active in the shipmate community. So,
Yeah, and she used to be a big fan of Kurt and then the blonde guy from season two, Sam. She
oh
thought
yes,
they
yes,
were
yes.
going to get together, and
I
uh,
think that character was originally meant to be that, like a kind of love interest for Kurt, but then it shifted to. But anyway,
yes, yeah,
anyway,
they did go in a different direction there.
yeah,
But I suspect when you've got a show like that, a big part of the relationship with your fan base is teasing or
yeah,
giving them a bone or something of yeah, okay, there's a lot of people that like these two characters together, so we'll do something with that
yes,
and see where that goes. And I've always been fascinated with that idea of working on a TV show where would you actually look on the Tumblr message boards and the Twitter
mm,
and see, like I'm not sure. I think a lot of them don't, but I don't think I'd be able to
yeah,
stop myself.
yeah. It's not be hard to resist, but it does seem like that kind of stuff. I think it's like with stand up as well. There's like you don't want to be chasing necessarily what the audience wants, like like if you're a comedian and you only ever do things you think the audience will find funny, or you stop doing what you yourself find funny, like that can only last for so long. Either you burn yourself out because you can't respect you can't respect yourself, or or you become a comedian for everyone and therefore no one, like you're making
Mm,
you get everyone enjoys your stuff, but no one becomes a fan of you because you don't have any real perspective. You're just chasing after, their laugh. And I think the same thing can happen with TV writing. I think, if you chase after what the fans want, um, you give them what they want, and I guess they get that sugar high, but you're not creating a long, sustainable, intelligible program.
yeah, I feel like you probably limit how much further you can go as well if you're just appealing to the people that are already watching it, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially, yeah. And you got to think about it. Like the people who post online are freaks. You're absolute weird. Anyone who's ever been on the internet is an absolute psycho.
Mm,
But like I remember reading a thing, years ago about how Reddit works. And like I don't know, 1,000 of 100 people go on Reddit. 90 of them are just looking. 90 of them never ever comment. And so of the 10 that do actually post stuff, nine of them will maybe reply to a comment, or like will comment, and only and one person of that group will be the one actually putting the posts up, actually, saying, ask me anything, or have you guys noticed this, or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
whatever. So like the point is, it's like the conversations online are being driven by such a small minority of people. Most actual normal people aren't interacting at all.
Yeah,
And so to be the kind of person driven to comment about anything, yeah, you got to be, yeah, you have to be you have to have your passions so severely aroused. You have to,
yeah, that's right.
you have to
Yeah.
be filled with the animal spirits. Like
Yeah, that's right. I
yeah,
think
talking like
you
an
often
old timey economist.
yeah, you
Uh,
often see people would talk about, oh, how come men are so hateful online and all this sort of thing, and you think, well, the ones who are not are probably the ones out there living their life, not not typing
Yeah,
stuff on the computer all day. Yeah.
yeah, 100%. It's true of any demographic, of any fan group, of anything. Like the people who are driven enough to go out and comment about it online are a very particular breed of people. And so
Yeah,
it is, and so then if your creative outlet becomes, if your creativity starts to like center those people, you're like catering to a very small minority of your potential audience.
that's right. Yeah.
You know,
Um,
especially like, and you notice it with stand up. I don't know, like you'll do a show or whatever, and maybe, and people after the show might come up to you and say, "Oh, thanks for that," or "Great job," or whatever, some nice platitude, and then they'll just go on their way and live their life.
yeah, yeah,
They're never like coming and commenting on your Facebook and going like, "Here's a breakdown of what you did and and why this
yeah,
was good and that was bad," and you
yeah.
know,
Yeah,
yeah,
most people are pretty happy to just sort of pat you on the shoulder and hey, that's good, and then yeah, they're not
yeah,
they're
exactly,
not devoting any more
exactly,
thought to it. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I just got the 10-minute Zoom warning that we're running out of time. So one thing I wanted to talk to you about is the sort of darkness of the sort of post Glee, just all the like I think
Oh, I had
I
a
read
notice for you. What do you mean?
that the actress who played Rachel was apparently a tyrant on set.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of them have come out now saying that they didn't really enjoy working with her. You obviously had the scandal with
And,
the actor for Puck, who maybe we don't
and
need to go into that, but that is very dark. You have the I forget what her name was, but there was one who she passed away in a boating accident.
yes, Naya
The
Rivera,
main
yes.
the main character, he
Corey
passed away.
Monteith is
Yeah, and so like just with this show that has, it's like we were saying at the start, there is this edge of darkness at it. There's an
mm.
optimism there, but then with just there just I don't know, there just seems something macabre about the show and looking at it with today's eyes to me.
Yes, yeah, I guess so. And that I think that I don't know, maybe adds a fascination of people watching
Yes.
the show that what I guess an irony is, I don't know, a tragic cosmic irony, I suppose. But the darkness, I guess the edge of the show, that when the show was actually dark and a bit cynical, was in I guess, the very early seasons. But by the time it seems that the actual, horrible things were starting to take place, Glee was either finished or was at a point where it had become what it was trying to parody. Like
Mm,
Glee started off as a parody of High School Musical, and then it became High School Musical. So by the time all the dark stuff was happening either on or off camera, or that it had become a shadow of its former self, and as Nietzsche once said, "Wrestle not with monsters, lest you become a monster yourself." And Glee, Glee became a monster.
yes,
Um,
yes. Okay, I'm with you. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, it is. I mean, the show, is littered with tragedies, which probably does make discussing it hard. I don't know, but I think it also creates a weird allure to the show, and it also means that the show made interesting creative decisions, which I think in hindsight, maybe they shouldn't have. Well, I think even the creative, like for example, the main actor passing away due to an accidental drug overdose, is
Yeah.
obviously incredibly sad and
Mm,
terribly impactful, because it's your co-worker, on the show, and then they decided to keep the show going and do a
yeah.
show which so then you're bringing all these people who all knew him, and I think they also started filming the episodes or the episode dedicated to him, so not very long after he had and
Yes.
this is
Yeah.
someone who was so they was so there's like a weird yeah, I think I guess to us who aren't involved, I guess there's like I guess there can be like a what's this word, like a detached analytical curiosity about like the fact that they
Yeah.
did that. But yeah, when you think about what that would have been like, you're like, oh, that's awful. And I think the creator has now said we probably should have cancelled the show. And
Ah,
and and, and,
interesting.
I think with the benefit of hindsight, that probably would have been the right decision to be like, oh,
Yeah.
our lead actor passed like right as we're about to start production of season 5. Um, it's kind of bizarre to make all these people come to work and
Yeah.
sort of, and like almost, I mean, again, I wasn't there at the time and I probably shouldn't speak, but it does feel that maybe there's an element of having to process their grief on camera,
Mm. Well, I think there's that old saying of like art imitating life, and I think art's definitely a reflection, almost like a time capsule of kind of like you say, it was sort of encapsulating that Obama era of politics, and I think it's interesting that they say they probably shouldn't have done that or should have cancelled the show. But again, it's just like you say, the interesting creative decisions that they made, I think, are kind of a reason that, some 20 years later, we're still kind of thinking about it.
Yes, yeah. The fact that they were at some points, I guess, willing to make like, I, I think, I think that's actually part of the fascination is that I do when the show debuted, I do think it had quite a lot of critical acclaim. Like
Mm,
the early seasons, I think, yeah, people they were well regarded, and then the final seasons, I think, yeah, season five, I think, like they produce some of the worst episodes of television you've ever seen. Like it's so interesting that there's this huge you know just change, and even the actors who've been on the show admit there are some things that they can't watch or are like this was a mistake, we should not have done that.
yeah,
And I think that adds to the fascination with the show. Like, how could have something started so strong, ended so bizarrely, and it's such a unique concept. There hasn't, though people have tried, there hasn't really been another musical TV show like that. No,
not
certainly
really,
not a
no, yeah.
jukebox musical one. Yeah, and then and they're willing to make crazy decisions in the long run that make people go, "Oh, remember that they did this," and that
Yeah,
which keeps it alive.
that's right. It's all about moments. So I'm
Yeah.
afraid we're going to have to wrap up there. I've got 3 minutes left in the Zoom call. So thank you so much for giving me some of your time. I'm sure we could talk about this for another hour if we wanted to, but I think we're going to come back and do a stand-up chat and maybe, I don't know, we'll figure out when you've got some time. But
Yeah.
plugs, what have you got sort of coming up? This is going to drop in 2 weeks.
Oh yes. I'll be on tour in the UK and then all over Australia and New Zealand. So I'll be coming to Christchurch, Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch in May, Auckland, Wellington, and sorry, no, Christchurch in March, Auckland, Wellington in May, and then all over Australia. From February to May. I'll be going, hitting all the big places, Hobart. Um, Melbourne, Sydney, Newcastle, Brisbane, Adelaide. So yeah, come check out my new show, all new jokes. Yes, please come along.
Awesome. I'll chuck your social media links in the description below. Do we have a rough idea when your last or your previous special is going to come out?
Yeah, no, I've not announced it.
Oh, shit. Sorry.
Oh,
I will
actually,
cut
no,
that out.
no. It's actually no. I have mentioned that I taped a show, so it's fine.
Okay.
But I am not sure. But I think look forward to seeing that early at least in the first half of this year. I
Hell
would
yeah.
say.
I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to it. Alrighty. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a
No,
great
no,
rest of the day, man.
no. Thank you so much, Taylor.
Thank you for listening to Riddle Me This. Don't forget to hit subscribe and leave me a review on your favorite podcast platform. You can find me on social media at Taylor Riddle Comedy on all the major platforms. You can also join patreon.com/Taylor Riddle Comedy for free, which gets you access to all sorts of extras and behind the scenes content, as well as allows you to communicate directly with me and let me know what you think of the show. Tune in again next Monday for another episode of Riddle Me This, and until then, Riddle her out.
This has been a Tape Deck Media production. Thank you for listening.
Hey Ruddlers, I joined a group of podcasters that we are calling the Trailer Alliance, a group of podcasters that share each other's trailers at the end of the episodes and generally support each other. So at the end of each episode for the next few weeks, I'm going to be playing a trailer of one of the members of the Trailer Alliance. And here's one of them now. I hope you like it.
Are you struggling with a lack of access to captivating entertainment and media? Are you faced with constant judgment and ridicule from friends and family for your inability to respond appropriately to sensitive situations? If this sounds like you might be suffering from being emotionally dead inside. But it's not too late to make a change. One Nothing Podcast is a newly available treatment for being dead inside. Taken just once every 2 weeks, One Nothing could make a world of difference. By combining carefully measured dark humor to the amazing original formula of grisly fatalities, One Nothing Podcast has successfully entertained thousands of people suffering from death inside. And with access across all podcast platforms, treatment has never been more readily available. But don't trust my word. Here's some real-world testimonials from a few of our listeners currently undergoing treatment.
From consistent doses of One Nothing Podcast, my posture has greatly improved due to being kept on the edge of my seat.
The One Nothing Podcast comes on, everybody be like, shut the f*** up. I be quiet, but when the episode's over, I be talking again.
Oh my gosh, buddy. I used to be on so many medications for blood pressure, and then I listened to One Nothing Podcast's episode on Kitty Genovese, moved into an apartment on my own, and haven't needed it since. That one really got my blood pumping.
You know, listening to One Nothing Podcast, I'm not constipated anymore. I'm just full of shit.
So what's stopping you from great entertainment?
One Nothing Podcast is not intended for all audiences. Listeners under 18 years of age should obtain permission from your parent or guardian before downloading. Tell your therapist if you're predisposed to whining, complaining, reading podcasts poorly, being overall combative, or being easily offended, as One Nothing Podcast might not be right for you.
So stop letting great content pass you by. Talk to your therapist today to see if One Nothing Podcast is right for you.